The afternoon sun painted golden streaks across the playground, but Emma couldn't see any of it through her tears. She sat on the wooden bench at the park's edge, her small hands gripping the armrest so tightly her knuckles had turned pale. Her prosthetic leg, bright pink with purple butterflies, stuck out from beneath her yellow sundress. 3 boys had just run past, pointing and laughing, making clicking sounds with their mouths like robots. "Look at the robot girl," one had shouted. "She's broken." Emma had heard worse. She'd heard it all since the cancer took her leg 2 years ago. Since her mother died. Since her father stopped looking at her without that terrible sadness in his eyes. But today, on this perfect Tuesday in May, the words hurt more than usual. Maybe because it was almost her birthday. Maybe because she was tired of being alone. The other children played on the swings and slides, their laughter floating through the air like music Emma couldn't join. She watched a group of girls her age playing hopscotch, their legs jumping and landing with easy grace. She used to play hopscotch with her mother. Before everything changed. A black town car waited in the parking lot. Gerald, her driver, sat inside reading a newspaper. He would wait there for exactly 1 hour, as he did every Tuesday and Thursday, then drive her back to the big empty house where her father would arrive home after she'd already gone to bed. Emma wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Her designer dress probably cost more than most people's cars, her shoes were Italian leather, and her prosthetic was the most advanced money could buy. But none of it could buy her a friend. That's when she saw them. A woman and a little girl had just arrived at the park. The woman wore faded jeans and a red t-shirt, her dark brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked tired but smiled as the little girl tugged her hand toward the playground. The girl wore bright green leggings and a blue shirt with a rainbow on it. Her hair bounced in 2 puffy pigtails tied with yellow ribbons. Emma watched as the woman sat on a bench across the playground, pulling out a worn paperback book. The little girl ran straight for the slide, her laughter bubbling up like water from a fountain. For 20 minutes, Emma watched the little girl play. She talked to everyone, tried to join every game, and didn't seem bothered when some kids ignored her. She had energy that reminded Emma of sunshine, warm and bright and impossible to ignore. Then the little girl noticed Emma. She stopped mid-run and stared. Emma's stomach dropped. Here it comes, she thought. The pointing. The questions. The fear or disgust or pity. She'd seen it all before. She started to stand, ready to walk back to Gerald and the safety of the car. But the little girl didn't point. She didn't laugh. She walked straight toward Emma with a curious smile on her round face. "Hi," the girl said, stopping a few feet away. "I'm Sophie. Why are you sitting all alone?" Emma's throat felt tight. I just am." "That's sad," Sophie said matter-of-factly. She tilted her head, studying Emma's prosthetic leg with open interest but no meanness. "Your leg is really pretty. I like the butterflies." Emma blinked. Nobody had ever called her prosthetic pretty before. "Thank you. Want to play with me? I'm trying to go across the monkey bars but my arms get tired. Maybe you could count for me. That would help." Before Emma could answer, another girl around Emma's age walked over. She had blonde hair and a pink dress that looked new. "Sophie, you shouldn't play with her. She's weird." Sophie's face scrunched up in confusion. "She's not weird. She's just sitting there. That's not weird." "She has a fake leg," the blonde girl said, lowering her voice like it was a secret. "So?" Sophie put her hands on her hips. "That doesn't make her weird. My mama says everybody's different and different is good. Are you going to play or just be mean?" The blonde girl's mouth fell open. She looked at Emma, then at Sophie, then turned and ran back to the other kids. Sophie turned to Emma and shrugged. "Some people are grumpy. Mama says to ignore grumpy people. So, do you want to come count for me?" Emma felt something warm spreading through her chest, pushing away the cold loneliness that had lived there for so long. "Okay." She stood up, and Sophie's eyes widened slightly as she watched how Emma walked. But there was no fear in her expression, just curiosity. They walked together to the monkey bars, Emma's gait slightly uneven but steady. "How many times do you think I can go across?" Sophie asked, reaching for the first bar. "Maybe 10. Emma guessed. "Let's see." Sophie grabbed the first bar and swung herself forward. "Count loud so I can hear." 1, Emma called out. 2, 3. Sophie made it to 5 before her arms gave out and she dropped to the soft ground below. She laughed and jumped up immediately. 5 is better than last time. I only did 3 last time. Let me try again. For the next 30 minutes, Emma counted while Sophie attempted the monkey bars over and over. They took turns with Sophie counting enthusiastically when Emma tried. Emma's prosthetic made some things harder, but she could still swing from bar to bar if she positioned herself right. Sophie cheered like Emma had won a gold medal when she made it across 7 bars. "You're really good at this," Sophie said, slightly out of breath. "Want to try the swings?" They moved to the swings and Emma felt herself actually laughing as they competed to see who could swing higher. She couldn't remember the last time she'd laughed like this, freely and without thinking about all the sad things in her life. The woman in the red shirt walked over, her book tucked under her arm. Up close, Emma could see she had kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Sophie, we need to head home soon. I have to get ready for my evening shift. Mama, this is my new friend." Sophie hopped off her swing. "What's your name?" "I forgot to ask your name." "Emma," she said quietly. "Emma," Sophie repeated, testing it out. "Mama, can Emma come home with us?" The woman looked surprised, then glanced at Emma's expensive clothes and the town car in the parking lot. "Oh, sweetheart, I think Emma probably has her own plans." "I don't," Emma said quickly, then felt embarrassed. I have to go home. My driver is waiting." The woman's eyes softened with understanding. "I'm Ryan. It's nice to meet you, Emma. Sophie talks to everyone, but I can tell she really likes you." "I really like her too," Emma said and meant it with her whole heart. "Are you here often?" Ryan asked gently. "Every Tuesday and Thursday. From 3 to 4. Sophie bounced on her toes. "We come on Tuesdays and Thursdays too. So we can play again?" Emma looked at Ryan, hoping desperately that the answer would be yes. Ryan smiled and nodded. "If Emma wants to, then yes." "I want to," Emma said, the words tumbling out fast. "I really, really want to." A black car horn beeped twice. Gerald signaled that the hour was up. "That's my driver," Emma said, her happiness deflating slightly. "I have to go." "That's okay," Sophie said cheerfully. "I'll see you on Thursday." Right, Emma promised. As she walked toward the car, Emma turned back twice to wave. Sophie and Ryan waved back both times. When Gerald opened the car door, Emma slid inside with a smile on her face. The first real smile she'd worn in longer than she could remember. "Good afternoon at the park, Miss Emma?" Gerald asked, watching her in the rearview mirror. "The best," Emma whispered, pressing her face to the window to watch Sophie and Ryan walk toward an old blue sedan parked near the entrance. That night, alone in her enormous bedroom with its canopy bed and walls full of toys she never played with, Emma lay awake thinking about purple butterflies and a little girl named Sophie who hadn't cared about a prosthetic leg. She thought about Ryan's kind eyes and the way she'd looked at Emma like she was just a regular kid. For the first time in 2 years, Emma went to sleep feeling like maybe, just maybe, things could get better. Maybe she wouldn't always be alone. Have you ever felt completely alone even in a crowded room? Have you ever wished someone would just see you for who you really are, not what makes you different? Emma's story is just beginning, and what happens next will touch your heart in ways you never expected. If this story moved you, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever been the lonely one or the one who reached out? Your story matters. Thursday couldn't come fast enough. Emma woke up at 6 in the morning, 3 hours before her usual time. She picked out her favorite outfit, a bright blue dress with white flowers, and asked Maria, the housekeeper, to help with her hair 3 different times until it was perfect. "You seem excited today, little one," Maria said in her soft accent, adding a blue ribbon to Emma's ponytail. "I'm meeting my friend at the park," Emma said, the word friend feeling special and new in her mouth. Maria's eyebrows rose. "A friend? That's wonderful." At breakfast, Emma's father Richard sat at the far end of the long dining table, scrolling through his phone while eating toast. He wore an expensive gray suit and his attention never left the screen in his hand. Emma ate her cereal quickly, watching the clock on the wall. "Daddy?" she said quietly. He didn't look up. "I made a friend at the park on Tuesday." "That's nice, sweetheart." His fingers tapped at his phone screen, sending emails or messages to people far more important than his daughter. Emma's excitement dimmed a little, but she didn't let it die. In just a few hours she'd see Sophie again. Nothing could ruin that. School dragged by like a snail crossing a road. Emma's private tutor, Mrs. Henderson, noticed her distraction during mathematics. "Emma, dear, are you feeling all right? You've been staring out the window for 10 minutes. "I'm fine," Emma said quickly, pulling her attention back to the numbers on the page. "Just thinking. About anything you'd like to share?" "I'm seeing a friend after lessons today." Mrs. Henderson smiled warmly. "How lovely. Friends are treasures, Emma. Hold on to them tightly." When 3 o'clock finally arrived, Emma practically ran to where Gerald waited by the car. He drove the familiar route to the park, and Emma pressed her nose to the window, searching for the old blue sedan. Was there? Her heart leaped. They'd come. Sophie had remembered. Gerald parked and opened her door. 1 hour, Miss Emma? Thank you, Gerald, she said, already scanning the playground. She spotted Sophie immediately. The little girl wore red overalls with a white shirt underneath, and she was hanging upside down from the jungle gym, her pigtails pointing toward the ground. Ryan sat on the same bench as before, but this time she had a notebook and was writing something, glancing up every few seconds to check on her daughter. Emma walked toward them, her heart beating fast. What if Tuesday had been special but today would be different? What if Sophie had thought about it and decided Emma was too weird after all? But then Sophie looked up and saw her. The little girl's face split into the biggest grin Emma had ever seen. Emma? Sophie flipped herself right side up and jumped down from the jungle gym, running across the playground. She stopped just in front of Emma, bouncing on her toes. You came. I told Mama you'd come, but I was a little bit worried maybe you forgot. I could never forget, Emma said honestly. I've been thinking about today since Tuesday. Me too. Sophie grabbed Emma's hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. Come on, I want to show you something. Sophie pulled her toward a corner of the playground where someone had drawn a hopscotch grid in chalk. See? One of the big kids made this yesterday. Want to play? We can take turns. Emma's stomach twisted. Hopscotch? The game she used to play with her mother. The game she hadn't played since before the surgery, before her whole world fell apart. I don't know if I can, Emma said quietly, looking down at her prosthetic leg. Sophie followed her gaze. Because of your leg? Emma nodded, waiting for Sophie to understand why they couldn't play, why Emma was limited, why she was broken. We'll just change the rules, Sophie said simply. You can step with both feet in each square if you want. Or hop on your other foot. Or we can just make up totally new rules. Mama says rules are just ideas and ideas can change. Emma stared at this small girl who seemed to believe everything was possible. Really? Really, really? Sophie picked up a small stone. I'll go first and show you. Sophie hopped through the grid, calling out numbers as she went, deliberately using both feet in some squares and making up silly moves in others. When she reached the end, she turned around and bowed like a performer. Now you try. Any way you want. Emma took a deep breath and stepped onto the first square. She kept both feet down just as Sophie had suggested. On the second square she hopped on her left foot, her good leg. The third square she stepped through with both feet again. She felt clumsy and slow, nothing like the graceful way she played this game with her mother years ago. But Sophie cheered the entire time, clapping and shouting encouragement. You're doing it. That was perfect. When Emma reached the end, she was breathing hard but smiling. That was fun. See? I knew you could do it. Sophie picked up the stone again. Let's play for real now. We'll both use whatever way works best. Okay. They played for 20 minutes, creating their own version of hopscotch that had no real rules except that they both had to laugh at least once per turn. Other children wandered over to watch and a few asked to join. Sure, Sophie said. But we play with our special rules. Everybody can move however they want. No regular rules allowed. Soon there were 6 children playing the strangest version of hopscotch the park had ever seen. One boy cartwheeled through the squares. A girl walked backward. Emma hopped and stepped in her own pattern, and nobody questioned it or stared at her prosthetic leg because everybody was too busy having fun. Ryan walked over with a small cooler bag. Sophie, snack time. Can Emma have a snack too? Sophie asked. Of course. Ryan opened the bag and pulled out apple slices, crackers, and a container of peanut butter. It's not fancy, but it's good. Emma sat on the grass with Sophie and Ryan. The food was simple, probably the simplest meal Emma had eaten in months. At home, chefs prepared elaborate meals that Emma usually ate alone. But sitting here, sharing apple slices with Sophie while Ryan told a funny story about a customer at her morning job, Emma felt fuller than she had at any fancy dinner. Your mama is really nice, Emma said to Sophie between bites. I know, Sophie said proudly. She works really hard. She has 2 jobs so we can have our apartment and food and stuff. That's why she's always tired. But she still plays with me. Ryan looked embarrassed. Sophie, you don't need to tell everyone about my jobs. Why not? You told me I should never be ashamed of hard work. You're right, sweet girl. I did say that. Ryan turned to Emma. Do you live near here, Emma? Kind of. We live in Rosewood Heights. It was the wealthy neighborhood on the hill overlooking the city, where houses looked like castles and had gates with codes. "That's a beautiful area," Ryan said kindly, though her eyes flickered with something Emma didn't understand yet. Maybe surprised that someone from Rosewood Heights played at public parks. "It's big," Emma said quietly. "Really big. My room is bigger than this whole playground probably. But it's just me there most of the time. And Maria, she's our housekeeper. And Gerald, my driver." "Where's your mama?" Sophie asked innocently. "Sophie," Ryan said gently. "That might be a private question. But Emma wanted to tell them. She wanted them to know. She died. 2 years ago. The same time I lost my leg. We both had cancer. She didn't get better." The words came out flat, a story Emma had told doctors and therapists but never friends. Because she'd never had friends to tell. Sophie's eyes went wide and sad. She scooted closer to Emma and wrapped her small arms around her in a tight hug. "That's the saddest thing I ever heard. I'm so sorry." Ryan's eyes were wet. She reached out and gently touched Emma's shoulder. "I'm sorry too, sweetheart. That must be very hard." "It is," Emma whispered into Sophie's hair. "But today is good. Today I'm not sad." Sophie pulled back and held Emma's face between her small hands. "Then we'll have lots of todays. So many todays that the sad ones get smaller and smaller." Emma didn't know if that was possible, but she wanted to believe it. She wanted to believe that friendship could make grief smaller, that connection could fill empty spaces, that maybe she didn't have to be alone anymore. They played until Gerald beeped the horn. Emma stood reluctantly, brushing grass off her dress. "Same time next Tuesday?" Sophie asked hopefully. "Yes," Emma promised. "Definitely." As Emma walked to the car, Ryan called out, "Emma? Thank you for playing with Sophie. You're a good friend." Emma turned back, those words wrapping around her heart like a warm blanket. Good friend. She was a good friend. In the car ride home, Gerald glanced at her in the mirror. "You look happy, Miss Emma." "I'm happy, Gerald. Really happy." That night, when her father came home late and poked his head into her room where she was drawing pictures of butterflies and rainbows, Emma said, "Daddy, I played hopscotch today." He looked surprised. "Hopscotch? Really?" "With my friend Sophie. She helped me make new rules so I could play." Something shifted in her father's face, a crack in his usually distant expression. "That sounds like a very good friend." "She is," Emma said firmly. "The best friend." After he left, Emma added Sophie to the picture she was drawing, a small figure with pigtails and a smile that took up half her face. Next to her, she drew herself, prosthetic leg decorated with purple butterflies, holding hands with her friend. For the first time since her mother died, Emma fell asleep feeling like the world might have good things waiting for her after all. 6 weeks passed, and Tuesdays and Thursdays became the center of Emma's universe. Everything else revolved around those 2 afternoons at the park with Sophie and Ryan. School lessons were just something to get through until 3 o'clock. Meals were eaten quickly so she wouldn't waste time. Even her dreams at night featured the playground and Sophie's constant laughter. On a warm Thursday in late June, Emma arrived at the park to find Sophie and Ryan already there, sitting at a picnic table near the playground. Ryan had papers spread out around her and was writing in a notebook while Sophie colored in a coloring book. "Emma?" Sophie hopped down from the bench and ran over. "We're having a picnic today. Mama packed sandwiches. Do you want half of mine? It's peanut butter and jelly." Emma looked at Ryan, who smiled and nodded. "There's plenty. I packed extra just in case." They sat at the picnic table, Emma between Sophie and Ryan. The sandwich was on wheat bread, simple and perfect. Emma ate it slowly, savoring every bite. "What are you writing?" Emma asked Ryan, noticing the papers covered in numbers and notes. "Budget stuff," Ryan said, putting her pen down. "Boring adult things. Trying to figure out bills and expenses." "Mama is really good at math," Sophie said proudly. "She can add big numbers in her head super fast." Emma watched Ryan add up a column of numbers without a calculator, her pen moving quickly across the page. "You are good at math." Ryan laughed softly. "I have to be. When money is tight, you learn to count every penny." "Why is money tight?" Emma asked, then worried she'd been rude. "Sorry, I shouldn't ask that." "It's okay, honey." Ryan leaned back, looking tired but not upset. "I work 2 jobs to take care of Sophie and me. I'm a receptionist at a dentist office in the mornings, and I work at a grocery store 4 evenings a week. It's enough for rent, food, and Sophie's needs. But there's not much extra." "Don't forget my birthday," Sophie reminded her. "My birthday is extra." "Your birthday is the most important extra," Ryan agreed, kissing the top of her daughter's head. We'll make it special, I promise. Emma thought about her own birthday coming up in 2 weeks. Her 8th birthday. Last year, her father had hired a party planner who'd filled their house with decorations and entertainment. Clowns, magicians, a petting zoo in the garden. 30 children from Emma's school had been invited, children who barely knew her name. They'd eaten cake, taken expensive gift bags, and left. Emma had spent most of the party sitting alone in her room, overwhelmed and lonely. When is your birthday? Emma asked Sophie. August 10th. I'm going to be 6. Sophie held up 6 fingers. Mama says we can go to the beach if she can get the day off work. The beach sounds nice, Emma said, though she'd been to beaches all over the world and none of them had made her as happy as this picnic table. After they finished eating, Sophie wanted to play on the swings. Emma pushed her, counting how high she went. Other children had stopped being mean or scared of Emma's prosthetic leg. Some of them had even started asking questions which Emma was learning to answer. A boy named Tyler, who was in 1st grade, came over while Emma was pushing Sophie. Does your leg hurt? Not anymore, Emma said honestly. It hurt a lot when I first got it, but now it just feels different. Can you run? Tyler asked. Sort of. Not as fast as before, but I can do it. That's cool, Tyler said, then ran off to play on the monkey bars. Sophie twisted in the swing to look at Emma. See? People aren't scared when you explain things. I guess not, Emma agreed. When they were tired of swinging, they sat in the grass and Sophie started picking dandelions. Mama says these are wishes. You blow on them and make a wish and it might come true. She handed one to Emma, who held the white puff carefully. What should I wish for? You can't tell or it won't come true, Sophie said seriously. That's the rules. Emma closed her eyes and wished that these afternoons would never end, that she could keep Sophie and Ryan in her life forever. She blew, and the white seeds scattered into the air, floating away on the breeze. What did you wish? Sophie asked immediately. You just said I can't tell. I know, but I want to know anyway. Emma laughed. That's cheating. Okay. Sophie blew on her own dandelion. I wish that you could come over to our apartment sometime. We could watch movies and eat popcorn and have a sleepover. I'd like that, Emma said, her heart squeezing with happiness at the thought of being wanted somewhere, of having a place beyond her empty mansion. Ryan called them over. She'd finished her paperwork and was packing things into her bag. Girls, I need to talk to you about something. They sat on either side of her on the bench. Ryan looked at Emma carefully. Emma, Sophie talks about you every single day. You're very important to her. To both of us, actually. Sophie is important to me too, Emma said quickly. You both are. I'm glad. Ryan paused, choosing her words. But I want to make sure your family knows about us. Does your father know you have a friend at the park? Emma nodded. I told him about Sophie. He said it was good I had a friend. Does he know about me? That I'm here watching you both play? I think so. Emma wasn't sure. She talked to her father so rarely, and when she did, he seemed to hear her words without really listening to them. I want to meet him, Ryan said gently. It's important that parents know each other when their children are friends. Would that be okay? Yes, Emma said, though anxiety crept through her. What if her father said she couldn't come to the park anymore? What if he thought Ryan wasn't appropriate or Sophie wasn't the right kind of friend? Don't look worried, sweetie. Ryan touched Emma's hand. I just want to introduce myself properly. Your father is probably very busy, but I'm sure he'd want to know who you're spending time with. That evening, Emma asked Maria for her father's work number. She'd never called him at the office before. His assistant answered, a woman with a sharp voice who asked what Emma needed. I wanted to talk to my dad, Emma said, her voice small. He's in a meeting. Can I take a message? Could you tell him my friend's mother wants to meet him? About me playing at the park? There was a pause. I'll pass along the message. 2 days later, on a Saturday morning, Emma's father actually came to breakfast on time. He sat down with coffee and looked at Emma with attention that felt unusual and uncomfortable. Maria said you have something to discuss with me, he said. Emma straightened in her chair. My friend Sophie's mom wants to meet you. Her name is Ryan. We play at the park on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Ryan is always there watching us. She wants to make sure you know about her. Her father set down his coffee cup. What do you know about this woman? She's really nice. She works 2 jobs. She brings snacks to share. She helps Sophie with homework at the park sometimes. She's kind, Daddy. Something in Emma's voice must have reached him because his expression softened. This friend means a lot to you. Yes, Emma whispered. Sophie is my best friend. My only friend. Her father was quiet for a long moment. Give Gerald her phone number. I'll call her and arrange to meet at the park next Tuesday. Relief flooded through Emma. Really? Really? He stood, picking up his coffee. If this friendship is important to you, then I should know the people involved. Emma wanted to hug him but didn't know how anymore. They'd stopped hugging somewhere between her mother's death and the endless surgeries. So she just said, "Thank you, Daddy." On Tuesday, Emma was so nervous she could barely eat lunch. Gerald drove her to the park early. Sophie and Ryan were already there, and Ryan wore a nice blue blouse instead of her usual casual clothes. She looked nervous too. Another car pulled up, sleek and black but not the town car. Emma's father stepped out, wearing a dark suit despite the summer heat. He looked powerful and intimidating, like someone who owned buildings and made important decisions. Emma ran to meet him. "Daddy, this is Sophie and her mama, Ryan." Sophie walked right up to Richard Bennett without any fear and stuck out her hand. "Hi. I'm Sophie. Emma is my very best friend in the whole world." Emma's father looked startled, then amused. He shook Sophie's small hand seriously. "It's nice to meet you, Sophie. I'm Richard, Emma's father." Ryan stepped forward, her handshake professional but warm. "Mr. Bennett, I'm Ryan Torres. Thank you for taking time to meet with me. Call me Richard, please." He glanced at Emma, who was holding Sophie's hand tightly. "My daughter speaks very highly of you both." They sat at the picnic table while Emma and Sophie played nearby, close enough to watch but far enough to give the adults privacy. Emma kept glancing over, trying to read the conversation from their body language. After about 20 minutes, her father stood and shook Ryan's hand again. He called Emma over. "Miss Torres is a responsible parent," he said formally. "I'm comfortable with you continuing to spend time here." Emma wanted to cheer but held it in, just nodding seriously. Her father looked at her for a long moment, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in months. "You're happy here?" "Yes, Daddy. Very happy." "Then I'm glad you found this place." He touched her shoulder briefly, the closest thing to affection he'd managed in a long time. "Gerald will continue bringing you on Tuesdays and Thursdays." After he left, Ryan let out a long breath. "Well, that was intense. Your father is very proper." "Was he mean?" Emma asked worriedly. "No, honey. Just formal. He clearly cares about you, though. He asked a lot of questions about what we do here, about me, about Sophie. He wanted to make sure you're safe." "And?" Emma held her breath. "And I assured him you're very safe. That you're a wonderful girl who Sophie loves very much." Ryan smiled. "He seemed relieved to know you're happy. I don't think he realized how much this friendship means to you." Sophie tugged Emma toward the swings. "Come on, best friend. Let's celebrate." As Emma pushed Sophie on the swing, listening to her friend's bright laughter, she felt something shift in her chest. Her father had come. He'd met Ryan. He'd given permission for this happiness to continue. Maybe he did care in his own distant way. Maybe things really were getting better. Emma's 8th birthday was 2 weeks away, and for the first time since her mother died, she actually wanted to celebrate it. Not with the elaborate parties her father's assistants usually planned, but with something real. Something that mattered. On a Thursday afternoon at the park, Emma finally worked up the courage to ask. She and Sophie were building a castle in the sandbox while Ryan read nearby. "Sophie?" Emma said, patting sand into a tower shape. "My birthday is in 2 weeks. On Saturday." "Really?" Sophie's eyes lit up. "Are you having a party?" "My dad's assistant asked if I wanted one. She's planning something big at our house." Emma paused, gathering her courage. "I told her I only want to invite 2 people. You and your mama." Sophie dropped her plastic shovel and threw her arms around Emma, getting sand all over both of them. "Really? We're invited to your birthday party?" "If you can come," Emma said hopefully. "It's on Saturday, July 20th at 2 o'clock. At my house." Sophie scrambled up and ran to her mother. Mama. Emma invited us to her birthday party at her house. Can we go? Please?" Ryan looked up from her book, surprised. She met Emma's eyes over Sophie's head. "Emma, that's very sweet. But are you sure? Your father might want you to invite school friends." "I don't have school friends," Emma said honestly, walking over to them. "I have tutors who come to my house. The only friend I have is Sophie. Please say you'll come." Ryan's expression softened. "Of course we'll come. We'd be honored. Thank you for inviting us." For the next 2 weeks, Emma actually looked forward to her birthday. She met with her father's assistant, a efficient woman named Patricia, and explained exactly what she wanted. "Just small," Emma insisted. No clowns or magicians or petting zoos. Maybe some balloons. That's all. Patricia looked confused. Your father's budget for this party is quite large, Emma. We could have anything you want. A carousel, a band, whatever you can imagine. I only want what I said, Emma repeated firmly. Please. Patricia must have reported this to Emma's father because that evening, he actually came home early and knocked on Emma's bedroom door. Come in, Emma called. He entered, looking uncomfortable in her space full of dolls and books and toys. Patricia says you want a very small party this year. Yes, Emma said. Just me, Sophie, and her mama. No other children from your school? I don't go to regular school, Daddy. You know that. Mrs. Henderson teaches me at home. He sat on the edge of her bed, a rare occurrence. Why just Sophie and her mother? Emma thought about how to explain it. Because they're real. They don't pretend to be my friend because I live in a big house or because their parents think they should. Sophie likes me because of me. That's special. Her father was quiet for a long moment. You're right. That is special. He stood. Then we'll have exactly the party you want. Small and special. On the morning of her birthday, Emma woke to Maria singing Happy Birthday in Spanish. A blue dress Emma had never seen before hung on her closet door, beautiful but not too fancy, perfect for a small party. Your father picked it out himself, Maria said, helping Emma into the dress. He went to the store and everything. Emma couldn't remember the last time her father had personally picked out anything for her. Usually gifts came from Patricia or appeared wrapped with cards in his handwriting that Emma knew weren't actually written by him. The party was set up in the garden, which looked beautiful without being overdone. Blue and purple balloons clustered around a table. A simple but elegant cake sat in the center, decorated with butterflies. Real butterflies, not plastic ones. At exactly 2 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Emma ran to answer it herself, something she'd never done before. Gerald usually handled the door. Sophie stood there in a green dress with white flowers, holding a wrapped present that looked homemade. Ryan wore a pretty red dress and carried a gift bag. Happy birthday. Sophie squealed, hugging Emma tight. They moved to the garden, and Emma watched Sophie's eyes go wide as she took in the house and grounds. Emma, your house is like a castle. Sometimes it feels like a castle where I'm locked in a tower, Emma said quietly. Lonely and big. Ryan squeezed her shoulder. Well, today it's a castle having a party. That's much better. They ate cake first because Emma said birthday girls could make the rules. The cake was chocolate with vanilla frosting, simple and delicious. They played games Sophie suggested, making up rules as they went. They explored the garden, which had paths and hidden corners Emma had forgotten about. Around 4 o'clock, Emma's father appeared. He'd been working in his office giving them space, but now he walked toward them carrying a large box. Happy birthday, Emma, he said, handing her the box. Inside was the most advanced prosthetic leg Emma had ever seen, decorated with intricate butterfly designs that looked hand-painted. It was purple and blue and pink, all of Emma's favorite colors. Daddy, Emma breathed. It's beautiful. The prosthetist said it's the newest model. More comfortable, better mobility. I thought you might like it. Emma threw her arms around him, surprising them both. Thank you. Thank you so much. He hugged her back, awkwardly at first, then tighter. You're welcome, sweetheart. Sophie came over to examine the prosthetic, completely unafraid. That's so cool. The butterflies are perfect. Richard looked at this small girl with pigtails who'd somehow become important to his daughter. You must be Sophie. Yep. Emma's my best friend. We play at the park every Tuesday and Thursday. Sometimes we make up new games that don't have rules. It's fun. It sounds fun, Richard said, and he actually smiled. Ryan joined them, wiping cake frosting from her hands. Mr. Bennett, thank you for having us. This has been lovely. Richard, please, he corrected gently. And thank you for coming. Emma rarely asks for anything. When she asked for this party, for you both to be here, I knew it was important. They talked while Emma and Sophie chased butterflies through the garden. Emma heard fragments of their conversation, Ryan telling Richard about her jobs, Richard asking about Sophie's school and their lives. It sounded friendly, warm even. When it was time for Sophie and Ryan to leave, Sophie hugged Emma tightly. This was the best party I've ever been to. Really? Emma asked. But there was just us. No entertainment or big stuff. Exactly, Sophie said seriously. It was perfect because it was just us. Emma opened their presents after they left. Sophie had drawn her a picture of the two of them at the park, sitting on the bench together. It was colorful and cheerful and clearly made with love. Ryan's gift was a journal with a note that said, "For writing down happy memories." That night, Emma made her first entry in the journal. "Today I turned 8. Sophie and her mama came to my party. It was the best birthday I've had in 2 years. Maybe the best birthday ever. Dad gave me a new leg with butterflies. He actually picked it out himself. He talked to Ryan like a real person, not like someone working for him. And he smiled at me. Really smiled. Sophie says friends make everything better. She's right. I'm not lonely anymore." Emma fell asleep hugging the picture Sophie had drawn, her new prosthetic leg standing by her bedside, butterflies gleaming in the moonlight coming through her window. For the first time in a very long time, Emma's birthday hadn't been something to survive. It had been something to celebrate. The Monday after Emma's birthday, Richard Bennett sat in his corner office on the 40th floor, staring at financial reports without really seeing them. His mind kept wandering back to Saturday, to the garden party, to the sound of his daughter's laughter echoing through a space that had been silent for too long. Patricia knocked and entered with her tablet. "Mr. Bennett, you have a conference call in 10 minutes with the Tokyo office." "Patricia, tell me about the woman who came to Emma's party." "Ryan Torres." Patricia looked surprised at the personal question. "I don't know much, sir. She arrived on time with her daughter. They seem nice." "Why?" "Find out about her. Background, employment, nothing invasive. Just basic information." Patricia nodded and left. Richard turned his chair to face the window overlooking the city. When had he stopped knowing the details of his daughter's life? When had he become a man who needed his assistant to tell him about the person making Emma happy? By Wednesday, Patricia had information. She placed a thin folder on his desk. "As requested, sir. Nothing invasive, just public records and basic information." Richard opened the folder. Ryan Torres, 32 years old, single mother. Worked as a receptionist at Bright Smiles Dental Clinic from 7 to 1, then evenings at Morrison's Grocery from 6 to 10 for nights a week. Education included 2 years of community college before she'd had to drop out. No criminal record. Rent paid on time. Lived in a modest apartment in the Riverside neighborhood. The woman was working herself to exhaustion for her daughter. "The dental clinic is Dr. Morrison's practice, correct?" Richard asked. "Yes, sir. Same family that owns Morrison's Grocery." "I know that family. Good people." Richard closed the folder. "Thank you, Patricia." That evening, Richard made an unusual decision. Instead of working late, he came home at 6 o'clock. Emma was in the library, her new prosthetic leg already strapped on, reading a book about butterflies. "Hi, Daddy," she said, looking up in surprise. "You're home early. I wanted to talk to you." He sat in the chair across from her. "Tell me about Sophie and her mother." Emma's face lit up and she told him everything. About meeting Sophie at the park, about learning to play again, about Ryan's kindness and snacks and the way she made Emma feel like a normal kid. She talked for 20 minutes straight, more words than Richard had heard from her in months. "Ryan works 2 jobs, Emma said. "She's really tired a lot. But she still brings Sophie to the park and still has time to be nice to me." "Why do you think she works 2 jobs? Richard asked gently. Emma thought about it. "Because she has to. Because money is tight, like she said?" "Yes. She's working very hard to take care of her daughter." Richard leaned forward. "Emma, how would you feel if I offered to help Miss Torres? Maybe give her a job at my company?" Emma's eyes went wide. "Really? You would do that?" "Your happiness matters to me," Richard said, the words feeling rusty but true. "And if this woman and her daughter make you happy, I want to help them." The next Tuesday, Richard asked Gerald to drive him to the park. He hadn't been to a public park in years, maybe decades. He felt out of place in his suit, but he was determined. Ryan sat on her usual bench, watching Emma and Sophie play. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes, but she smiled when Richard approached. "Mr. Bennett, this is a surprise." "Richard, please. May I sit?" "Of course." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the girls. Emma was showing Sophie how her new prosthetic worked, both of them examining it with scientific interest. "My daughter is different since meeting yours," Richard said. "She smiles now. She laughs. She wants to wake up in the morning." "Sophie talks about Emma constantly," Ryan said. "Your daughter is kind and brave. You should be proud." "I am. Though I can't take much credit. I've been absent." Richard turned to face her. "Miss Torres, I'd like to offer you a position at Bennett Industries. Administrative assistant in the Charitable Foundation Division. Better hours, better pay, benefits for you and Sophie." Ryan's expression closed off slightly. That's generous, but I can't accept charity. It's not charity. It's a job offer based on your qualifications. Patricia pulled your records. 2 years of college, excellent work history, strong references. You're overqualified for the positions you currently hold. I dropped out of college when I had Sophie, Ryan said quietly. Single mothers don't usually climb corporate ladders. They do at my company if they're qualified. Richard pulled out a business card with Patricia's number. Think about it. No pressure. But the offer is genuine. Ryan took the card, her hand shaking slightly. Why are you doing this? Because your daughter gave mine back something I thought she'd lost forever. Joy. Hope. Friendship. Richard stood. And because you're working yourself to exhaustion when you could be home with Sophie more often. That seems like something worth changing. He walked back to his car, leaving Ryan sitting on the bench, staring at the business card like it might disappear. 2 days later, Ryan called Patricia and scheduled an interview. The interview took place on a Thursday morning. Richard had Patricia conduct it professionally, no special treatment. He wanted Ryan to earn the position on merit, not pity. Patricia called him afterward. She's perfect for the role. Smart, organized, personable. She knows database systems I didn't expect. She types 90 words per minute. Her references are glowing. Offer her the position, Richard said. Already did. She starts Monday. She seemed overwhelmed. In a good way. That afternoon at the park, Ryan pulled Richard aside while the girls played. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. I don't know how to thank you, she said. Thank me by being excellent at your job. That's all I ask. The salary is 3 times what I make at both my current jobs combined. The health insurance covers dental work I've been putting off for 2 years. Sophie can go to after-school programs. Good, Richard said simply. Ryan surprised him by taking his hand. You don't know what this means. The evening job was killing me. I barely saw Sophie at night. I was falling asleep standing up. I couldn't afford to take her to the doctor when she had the flu last month. This job, it's not just money. It's time with my daughter. It's security. It's everything. You would have found your way eventually, Richard said. You're clearly capable. Maybe. But now is better than eventually. Ryan smiled, a real smile that reached her tired eyes. Thank you. Truly. Richard watched Emma and Sophie playing an elaborate game involving sticks and pine cones that seemed to have no rules at all. His daughter was laughing, her new prosthetic leg not slowing her down at all. He'd spent 2 years buried in work, trying to forget the pain of losing his wife, neglecting the daughter who still lived and needed him. A small girl named Sophie and her hard-working mother had somehow broken through that wall, shown him what mattered. Your daughter is remarkable, he said to Ryan. So is yours, Ryan replied. They're good for each other. They are. Richard checked his watch. I need to get back to the office. But I'm glad you accepted the position. I'm glad you offered it. As Richard walked to his car, Emma ran over and hugged him quickly. Thank you for helping Ryan, Daddy. You're welcome, sweetheart. Does this mean Sophie and I can have more playdates? As many as you want, Richard promised. He drove back to the office thinking about second chances and unexpected friendships and how sometimes it took a 7-year-old girl's loneliness to show a grown man what he'd been missing. That evening, for the first time in 2 years, Richard came home for dinner and ate with Emma. They talked about her day, her lessons, her plans for the weekend. Small things. Normal things. But they were the most important things in the world. Ryan's first day at Bennett Industries went better than she dared to hope. The charitable foundation offices occupied the 15th floor, filled with people dedicated to giving back. Her supervisor, a warm woman named Helen, showed her around and explained her responsibilities. We manage the company's charitable donations, grant applications, volunteer programs, Helen said. You'll help coordinate applications, maintain databases, assist with event planning. Nothing too complicated at first. But Ryan picked up everything quickly. Years of juggling 2 jobs and single motherhood had made her efficient and detail-oriented. By the end of her first week, Helen was already trusting her with more responsibilities. You're a natural at this, Helen said on Friday afternoon. Richard was right to recommend you. The best part was the schedule. 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. Evenings with Sophie. Weekends free. Ryan felt like she could breathe for the first time in years. 3 weeks into the job, on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, Ryan arrived at the park straight from work, wearing professional clothes instead of her usual casual outfit. Sophie ran to her from where she'd been playing with Emma. Mama, look what Emma taught me. Sophie demonstrated a complicated pattern of hopscotch jumps. That's wonderful, baby. Ryan sat on the bench, her umbrella propped beside her. Emma came over, her yellow raincoat bright against the gray sky. Hi Ryan. How was work? Really good. We're planning a charity gala for September. Helen is letting me help choose the venue. They watched the girls play in the light rain, neither seeming to mind getting wet. Other children had left when the weather turned, but Sophie and Emma were having too much fun to care. Your dress is really pretty, Emma said, noticing Ryan's professional clothes for the first time. Thank you. I have to dress nicely for the office. My dad's office is really big. Have you seen it? Not yet. I'm on a different floor. But I like where I work. Everyone is kind. Gerald pulled up in the town car. Emma waved goodbye and ran to the vehicle, moving easily despite the wet ground and her prosthetic leg. In the car, Emma asked Gerald, "Do you know Ryan works for my daddy now?" "I heard something about that, Miss Emma. It makes me happy. Now Ryan doesn't have to work at night anymore. She can be with Sophie." Gerald smiled at her in the mirror. "That does sound nice." At the Bennett mansion, Emma found her father in his study for once, looking over papers. She knocked on the open door. "Come in," he said without looking up. "Daddy? I saw Ryan at the park today. She wore a really pretty dress for work." Richard looked up. "Is she doing well at the office?" "I think so. She said everyone is kind." Emma came closer. "Thank you for giving her that job. It makes Sophie happy that her mama isn't so tired anymore." "I'm glad." He set down his pen. "Emma, come here for a moment." She approached his desk, curious. He rarely asked her to sit with him in his study. "I've been thinking," Richard said slowly. "I've been a poor father since your mother died. Distant. Absent. Working all the time to avoid feeling the pain. Daddy, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." He looked at her directly. "You needed me and I wasn't there. But seeing you with Sophie, seeing Ryan with her daughter, it reminded me what's important. Family. Connection. Being present." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "You're here now. I want to be here more. I want to have dinner with you every night. I want to know about your day, your lessons, your friends. I want to be your father again, not just the man who pays the bills." Emma came around the desk and hugged him tightly. Richard held his daughter, this brave girl who'd survived cancer and loss and loneliness, and wondered how he'd ever let work become more important than her. "I love you, Daddy," Emma whispered. "I love you too, sweetheart. So much." They ate dinner together that night, just the two of them at the big table. Maria had made pasta and they talked about everything and nothing. Richard learned that Emma loved butterflies because her mother had loved them. That her favorite color was purple. That she wanted to be a teacher when she grew up so she could help other children learn. All things he should have known but hadn't bothered to ask. Over the next few weeks, Richard kept his promise. He came home for dinner every night. He helped Emma with her homework. On Saturdays they went to the park together and he watched her play with Sophie while he talked with Ryan about work and life and parenthood. "You're good at this," Ryan said one Saturday, watching Richard push both girls on the swings. "At pushing swings?" "At being present. It's harder than it looks." "I'm learning from you," Richard admitted. "You make it look easy." "It's not easy. But it's worth it." In late August, Ryan helped plan her first charity gala. The event was massive, held at the city's finest hotel, raising money for children's hospitals. She worked tirelessly, coordinating with vendors, managing RSVPs, solving problems as they arose. The night of the gala, Richard stopped by her desk as she was packing up. "Ryan, you've done excellent work on this event." "Thank you. I hope it goes well." "It will. You've thought of everything." He paused. "You should attend. As staff, not just behind the scenes. I'll add you to the guest list." "Oh, I couldn't. I don't have anything to wear to something that fancy. The company has a discretionary fund for exactly this kind of thing. Patricia can help you find something appropriate." Ryan wanted to refuse. Her pride reared up, not wanting to feel like charity. But then she thought about Sophie, about how accepting Richard's help had changed their lives. About how kindness wasn't weakness. "Thank you," she said. "I'd like that." The gala was spectacular. Ryan wore a simple but elegant green dress and helped manage the event from inside the ballroom. She watched as hundreds of wealthy people donated thousands of dollars to help sick children. During a quiet moment, Richard appeared beside her. "You should be proud. This event raised over $2 million tonight." "That's incredible," Ryan said, her eyes wide. "You helped make it happen." He smiled. "Helen says you're the best assistant she's ever had." High praise. "I love this work. Helping people, making a difference. It feels meaningful." It is meaningful. Richard looked around the ballroom. My wife used to run these events. She'd have liked you. Your dedication, your heart. It was the first time Richard had mentioned his wife to Ryan. Emma talks about her sometimes. She sounds like she was wonderful. She was. Richard's expression was sad but not devastated. Losing her nearly destroyed me. I stopped living, just went through motions. Emma deserved better. You're doing better now, Ryan said gently. Emma is so happy. I see it every time we're at the park. Because of Sophie. Because of you. Richard met her eyes. Thank you for being kind to my daughter when she needed it most. Sophie needed Emma too, Ryan said. They're good for each other. The gala ended after midnight. Ryan went home to her apartment where Sophie was sleeping, watched by a neighbor. She changed into comfortable clothes and checked on her daughter, who was sprawled across her bed, peaceful and safe. They had health insurance now. Savings starting to build. Security Ryan had never imagined possible. All because she'd taken Sophie to a park one Tuesday afternoon. Because her daughter had been brave enough to say hello to a lonely girl on a bench. Because she'd accepted help when it was offered. Kindness had changed everything. September arrived with cooler weather and new routines. Emma started third-grade lessons with Mrs. Henderson, working through mathematics and reading with renewed energy. She actually enjoyed learning now that she had things to look forward to beyond lessons. You're doing excellent work, Emma, Mrs. Henderson said one Wednesday morning. Your comprehension has improved remarkably. I practice reading to Sophie sometimes at the park, Emma explained. She likes stories about animals. That's wonderful. Teaching others is one of the best ways to learn yourself. After lessons, Emma asked Maria to help her bake cookies. They made chocolate chip, Emma's favorite, and she packed half of them in a container to bring to the park the next day. At Bennett Industries, Ryan continued excelling in her role. Helen had begun including her in high-level planning meetings, valuing her input and organizational skills. Other departments started requesting her help with their projects. One afternoon, Richard stopped by her desk. Ryan, do you have a moment? Of course. She saved her work and followed him to a small conference room. Helen speaks very highly of you, Richard said once they were seated. She wants to promote you to program coordinator. It comes with a raise and more responsibilities. Ryan's breath caught. Program coordinator? That's a big jump from administrative assistant. You've earned it. Helen says you're already doing half the coordinator work anyway. This would make it official. I accept, Ryan said immediately, then laughed. Sorry, that was fast. But yes, absolutely yes. Richard smiled. Good. You'll start the new role on Monday. Congratulations. Ryan couldn't wait to tell Sophie. That evening at the park, both girls ran to her when she arrived. Mama, guess what? Sophie said. Emma brought cookies she made herself. Homemade cookies. That sounds delicious. Emma presented the container proudly. They're chocolate chip. Maria helped me, but I did most of the work. They sat at the picnic table and shared the cookies while Emma told them about her lessons and Sophie talked about her kindergarten class starting soon. I'm nervous, Sophie admitted. What if the other kids don't like me? They'll love you, Emma said firmly. You're the nicest person I know. Just be yourself. Ryan smiled at Emma's confident reassurance. That's good advice. Also, I have news, Ryan said. I got a promotion at work. I'm going to be a program coordinator. Mama, that's amazing. Sophie hugged her tightly. What does a program coordinator do? Emma asked. I'll help run the foundation's programs, work on bigger projects, maybe even travel sometimes to visit the charities we support. Emma felt proud for Ryan, this woman who'd been so kind to her. My daddy said you were really good at your job. I'm glad he was right. Over the next few weeks, both families settled into new patterns. Richard actually started leaving work at reasonable hours, having dinner with Emma, and sometimes joining them at the park on weekends. He and Ryan developed an easy friendship, talking about work, their children, and life in general. One Saturday in late September, Richard suggested they all go to the zoo together. Emma could barely contain her excitement. Really? All four of us? If that sounds fun, Richard said. Yes, Emma shouted, then caught herself. Yes, please. That sounds wonderful. The zoo trip was perfect. Emma and Sophie ran from exhibit to exhibit, marveling at elephants and lions and penguins. Richard and Ryan followed behind, talking easily. Thank you for including us, Ryan said, watching the girls press their faces against the glass at the penguin habitat. Thank you for accepting. Emma hasn't stopped smiling since I suggested it. At the butterfly garden, Emma stood perfectly still while monarchs and swallowtails landed on her arms and shoulders. Sophie watched in awe. "You're like a butterfly princess," Sophie whispered. "My mom loved butterflies," Emma said softly. "That's why they're on my prosthetic leg. Sometimes I feel like she's still with me through them." Richard overheard and his eyes grew misty. He'd forgotten that Emma associated butterflies with her mother. Seeing his daughter surrounded by them, happy and whole despite everything she'd lost, made his chest ache with love and pride. They ate lunch at the zoo cafe, and Richard insisted on paying for everything despite Ryan's protests. "Let me do this," he said gently. "I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. Let me use some of it to make today special." Ryan relented, and they enjoyed hot dogs and ice cream and overpriced zoo lemonade. On the drive home, Sophie fell asleep in the back seat of Ryan's car, her head resting on Emma's shoulder. Emma stayed very still so she wouldn't wake her friend. "Today was perfect," Emma whispered to her father in the car behind them. "It was," Richard agreed. "We should do more things like this." "Like a family?" Richard glanced at his daughter. "Yes, like a family." Emma smiled and looked out the window. She thought about how different her life was now compared to a year ago. Then she'd been lonely and sad, sitting alone at the park while other children played. Now she had Sophie and Ryan, and a father who actually spent time with her. Her prosthetic leg didn't make her different anymore. It was just part of who she was, decorated with butterflies that reminded her of her mother and the journey she'd taken to find joy again. At home that evening, Emma wrote in her journal. "Went to the zoo today with Sophie, Ryan, and Dad. Best day ever. Sophie fell asleep on my shoulder in the car. Dad smiled more today than I've seen in 2 years. Ryan looked happy and not tired. Butterflies landed on me at the butterfly garden. I think Mom would have loved that. I'm not lonely anymore. I have a family again. It's different than before, but it's still a family." Sophie says families are people who love each other, not just people related by blood. I think she's right. October brought falling leaves and cooler weather. Emma and Sophie loved collecting colorful leaves at the park, pressing them between wax paper to preserve them. They created elaborate art projects with their collections, gluing leaves onto construction paper to make butterflies and rainbows and trees. "Look what we made, Mama," Sophie said, holding up a leaf butterfly with red and gold wings. "That's beautiful, baby." Ryan took a photo with her phone. "We should frame it." "Can we frame Emma's too?" Sophie asked. "Of course. We'll frame both." At school, Sophie had made friends with several children in her kindergarten class, but Emma remained her best friend. She talked about Emma constantly, telling her classmates about the girl with the butterfly leg who was the bravest person she knew. One day Sophie's teacher, Miss Wilson, asked to speak with Ryan after school. "Is everything okay?" Ryan asked, worried. "Everything is wonderful," Miss Wilson assured her. "Sophie talks about her friend Emma all the time. The girl with the prosthetic leg." Sophie's openness about differences has really influenced the other children. They're all more accepting now, more curious about people who aren't exactly like them. "Emma is a special girl," Ryan said. "She's taught Sophie a lot about kindness and courage. They're clearly good for each other." At home, Ryan told Sophie what her teacher had said. "Miss Wilson says you're helping other kids learn to be kind." "Emma taught me that," Sophie said simply. "She's nice to everyone even when they're not nice first. That's the best way to be." Meanwhile, Emma's confidence had grown remarkably. She no longer felt shy about her prosthetic leg. When Mrs. Henderson suggested she might enjoy joining a class at the local community center, Emma agreed. "There's an art class for children your age," Mrs. Henderson said. "It meets every Wednesday afternoon. I think you'd enjoy it." Emma attended her first class nervously, but the other children barely glanced at her prosthetic leg. They were too focused on painting and drawing and creating. Emma discovered she loved watercolors, especially painting butterflies and flowers. She brought her paintings to show Sophie at the park. "Look what I made." "Emma, these are so pretty," Sophie said, examining each painting carefully. "You're really good at art. Want me to teach you?" They spent the next hour at the picnic table with watercolors Emma had brought. Sophie's paintings were enthusiastic but messy, full of bold colors and happy shapes. Emma's were more delicate, careful butterflies and flowers. Ryan and Richard sat nearby, watching their daughters create art together. "Emma seems so different from when we first met her," Ryan observed. "More confident, happier." "She is different," Richard agreed. "She used to hide in her room all the time. Now she asks to go places, do things. She talks about the future with excitement instead of fear." "Sophie has changed too. She's always been friendly, but Emma taught her deeper things. Compassion, patience, understanding that everyone has struggles we can't see. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both grateful for the unexpected friendship that had brought such positive changes to their families. "Ryan," Richard said slowly, "I want to ask you something, and please feel free to say no." "Okay. Would you and Sophie like to come to our house for Thanksgiving?" "Emma already asked, and I'd like it very much. We could cook together, make it a real family meal instead of just catered food." Ryan's first instinct was to refuse, not wanting to intrude on their holiday. But then she remembered Emma's words about accepting kindness with gratitude. She remembered how Richard's job offer had changed their lives. "We'd love to," she said. "Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for accepting." The weeks leading up to Thanksgiving were busy. Ryan and Richard planned the menu together, deciding on turkey with all the traditional sides. Emma and Sophie made decorations, cutting out paper leaves and turkeys to decorate the Bennett dining room. On Thanksgiving Day, Ryan and Sophie arrived at noon. Sophie wore an orange dress that Ryan had saved up to buy. Ryan wore a maroon dress, simple but pretty. "You look beautiful," Richard said when he answered the door, then looked surprised that he'd said it out loud. Ryan blushed slightly. "Thank you. So do you? I mean, you look nice. Very nice." Emma and Sophie ran past the awkward adults, giggling as they headed for the kitchen where Maria was preparing side dishes. "Can we help?" Emma asked. "Of course," Maria said warmly. "You can make the cranberry sauce." The girls worked together, following Maria's instructions to mix cranberries and sugar and orange juice. They sampled the mixture repeatedly, declaring it delicious. In the kitchen, Richard and Ryan worked on the turkey. Well, Richard mostly watched while Ryan demonstrated her mother's technique for seasoning and basting. "Your mother taught you to cook?" Richard asked. "She taught me everything important. Cooking, budgeting, kindness. She passed away when Sophie was 2. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." "It's okay. We got through it. Single parenthood is hard, but we make it work." Ryan smiled. "Though your job offer made it significantly easier. You've earned every bit of your success at the foundation. Helen says you're indispensable." "I love the work. Making a difference, helping people. It feels meaningful in a way my other jobs never did." They ate dinner at 4 o'clock, all sitting together at the long dining table that had felt so empty for so long. Maria joined them and Gerald too at Emma's insistence. "Everybody who helped make this meal should eat together," Emma said firmly. They went around the table sharing what they were thankful for. Sophie went first. "I'm thankful for Emma, because she's my best friend and she taught me that different is good." Emma went next. "I'm thankful for Sophie and Ryan because they saw me when I felt invisible. And for Daddy because he's here now." Ryan's eyes were wet. "I'm thankful for this opportunity Richard gave us, and for Emma's friendship with Sophie, and for today, being included in this family meal." Richard spoke last. "I'm thankful for second chances. For Sophie showing Emma how to smile again. For Ryan reminding me what's important. For getting to be a real father again instead of just a distant provider." Maria and Gerald shared their thanks too, and then they ate. The food was delicious, made better by the laughter and conversation around the table. After dinner, Emma and Sophie played in the garden while the adults cleaned up. Through the window, they watched the girls chase each other around, Emma's prosthetic leg not slowing her down at all. "They're wonderful together," Ryan said, drying a dish. "They are." Richard washed a plate, quiet for a moment. "Ryan, I want you to know how grateful I am that you let Emma into Sophie's life. You could have kept your daughter away, worried about the wealth difference or that Emma's problems might affect Sophie. But you didn't." "Emma isn't problems," Ryan said firmly. "She's a child who needed a friend." Sophie recognized that immediately. Children are better at these things than adults sometimes. "They are," Richard agreed. That evening, as Ryan and Sophie prepared to leave, Emma hugged Sophie tightly. "This was the best Thanksgiving ever." "We're like sisters now," Sophie said. "Best friend sisters." "Best friend sisters," Emma agreed. After they left, Richard found Emma in her room, writing in her journal. "Did you have a good day?" he asked. "The best day, Daddy." Emma looked up at him. "Thank you for inviting them. For letting them be part of our family." "They are part of our family," Richard said, realizing as he spoke that it was true. Somewhere along the way, this woman and her daughter had become essential to his and Emma's happiness. "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, sweetheart. So very much." In early December, Richard received a call from Dr. Patricia Morrison, a leading prosthetic specialist he'd consulted when Emma first lost her leg. She was excited about a new program she developed. Richard, I wanted to reach out because I immediately thought of Emma. We've developed an advanced prosthetic system specifically designed for active children. It's much more sophisticated than current models, with better balance, more natural movement, and adaptive technology that grows with the child. That sounds remarkable, Richard said. What's the process? Initial consultation, fitting, and then follow-up adjustments over about 3 months. The results have been outstanding. Children are running, jumping, dancing, things we never thought possible 5 years ago. What's the cost? Dr. Morrison named a figure that made even Richard pause. It wasn't that he couldn't afford it, he could afford it 100 times over, but he understood why most families couldn't access this technology. I'd like to schedule Emma for a consultation, Richard said. That evening he told Emma about the program. Her eyes went wide with excitement and fear. Better than my butterfly leg? She asked, touching the prosthetic she currently wore. Different. This one would let you run faster, jump higher. It adapts to how you move instead of you having to adapt to it. Can I keep my butterfly leg too? For special days? Of course. This would just be another option. Emma was quiet for a moment. Daddy, how much does it cost? That's not something you need to worry about. But it's a lot, right? More than most people can pay. Richard sat down next to her. Yes, it's expensive. Emma bit her lip, thinking. What about other kids who need it but can't afford it? Like if Sophie needed one, could her mama pay for it? The question struck Richard hard. Probably not, no. That's not fair. No, it's not fair. Emma looked at her father seriously. I want the new leg. But only if we can help other kids get them too. Can we do that? Richard felt pride swell in his chest. Yes, we can do that. That's exactly the kind of project the Bennett Foundation should fund. Really? Really? We'll get you the new prosthetic and we'll create a program to help other children access the same technology. Emma threw her arms around him. Thank you, Daddy. The next Tuesday at the park, Emma told Sophie and Ryan about the new prosthetic. She was bouncing with excitement. Dr. Morrison says I'll be able to run almost like before. Maybe even play soccer. That's amazing, Ryan said warmly. And Daddy's foundation is going to help other kids get them too. Kids whose families can't afford it. Your father is very generous, Ryan said, meeting Richard's eyes over the girls' heads with appreciation. But later, when the girls were playing, Emma came back to the bench looking troubled. What's wrong? Ryan asked. I was thinking. About the new leg costing so much. About helping other kids. Emma looked at Ryan seriously. You've been working a lot, right? And you still have things you need but can't afford yet? Ryan was surprised by the direct question. Well, everyone has things they're saving up for. Like what? Emma, that's personal. Please tell me. It's important. Ryan sighed. I need dental work. I've been putting it off for years because it's expensive and not urgent. My teeth work fine, they just need some cosmetic repairs from an accident I had years ago. Emma stood up with determination. Then we have to help you too. Emma, no. That's very sweet, but... Why not? Emma's voice was firm. You helped me when I was lonely. You shared your food when we were hungry. You gave me a friend when I had none. Why can't we help you now? Because that's different. How is it different? Ryan opened her mouth, then closed it. How was it different? Because she was an adult? Because she was proud? Because accepting help felt like admitting weakness? Your mama taught me something, Emma continued. She taught me that kindness goes both ways. That accepting help is just as important as giving it. That people who care about each other take care of each other. Ryan's eyes filled with tears. I did teach you that, didn't I? Yes. And now I'm teaching you. Emma took Ryan's hand. Please let us help. Please let my daddy's doctors fix your teeth. Not because you need charity, but because we're family and families help each other. That evening, Ryan called Richard. Emma talked to me about accepting help today. Did she? Richard sounded amused. That girl is becoming quite the philosopher. She is. Ryan took a breath. If the offer is genuine, not pity or charity, but genuine help, I would appreciate assistance with some dental work I've been postponing. Consider it done, Richard said immediately. I'll have Patricia schedule you with the best cosmetic dentist in the city. Thank you. Ryan's voice was thick with emotion. And thank you for raising a daughter who understands kindness. I can't take credit for that. Emma learned kindness from you and Sophie. 2 weeks later, Emma had her first fitting for the new prosthetic. Dr. Morrison was impressed by how quickly Emma adapted to the technology. She's a natural, Dr. Morrison said, watching Emma walk across the examination room. The sensors are reading her movements perfectly. It feels weird, Emma said. But good weird. Like my leg is thinking with me instead of me having to think about my leg. By the time Emma received her final prosthetic in early January, Ryan had completed her dental work. Both transformations were remarkable. At the park on the first Tuesday in January, Emma ran at full speed across the playground to Sophie. Look what I can do. She demonstrated running, jumping, and spinning. Sophie cheered and clapped, then they ran together, racing from one end of the park to the other. Ryan smiled at Richard. Thank you for this. All of this. The job, the dental work, but mostly for letting us be part of your lives. Thank you for being part of our lives, Richard replied. I don't know where Emma and I would be without you and Sophie. They watched their daughters play, two girls who'd found each other when they both needed a friend. Who'd taught their parents about kindness, acceptance, and what really mattered in life. Emma ran back to the bench, barely out of breath. Daddy, Ryan watched this. She proceeded to do a series of jumps and hops that would have been impossible with her old prosthetic. Sophie joined in, and they created an elaborate dance routine on the spot. We're going to perform this at the school talent show, Sophie announced. Can I be in the talent show even though I'm homeschooled? Emma asked. I'll talk to the school, Richard said. I'm sure they'll make an exception. That evening, Emma wrote in her journal. Got my new prosthetic today. Ran faster than I have in 3 years. Ryan's teeth are fixed and her smile is even prettier now. We're doing a dance for the talent show, me and Sophie. Dad says we're a family now, me and him and Sophie and Ryan. Not a regular family but a chosen family. I like that better anyway. Mom would be proud of me, I think. I'm not scared anymore. I'm not lonely. I'm just me and that's enough. Are you moved by Emma's journey from loneliness to belonging? Her story isn't over yet, the best part is still to come. Don't forget to subscribe and comment about a time when kindness changed your life. Your story could inspire someone else who needs hope today. Spring arrived with warm sunshine and blooming flowers. 6 months had passed since Emma's new prosthetic and Ryan's dental work, and both families had settled into a comfortable rhythm of shared meals, park visits, and weekend adventures. In late March, Richard made an announcement at one of their now regular Sunday dinners. I've been thinking about taking a vacation. Somewhere fun, somewhere special. And I'd like all of us to go together. Emma dropped her fork. Really? All 4 of us? If Ryan and Sophie would like to join us, Richard said, looking at Ryan hopefully. Where were you thinking? Ryan asked carefully. The beach. There's a family resort in South Carolina with activities for children, beautiful coastline, very relaxed. I thought we could rent a house for a week during Sophie's spring break. Sophie bounced in her chair. Mama, can we? Please, please, please? Ryan looked at Richard, trying to read his intentions. That's very generous, but a week at a beach resort must be expensive. I'd like to do this, Richard said simply. For all of us. We've become, well, a family of sorts. Families take vacations together. Say yes, Mama, Sophie begged. Please say yes. Ryan smiled. Yes. Thank you, Richard. We'd love to. The next few weeks were filled with excited planning. Emma and Sophie made lists of things they wanted to do at the beach. Build sandcastles, collect seashells, swim in the ocean, eat ice cream every day. Every day might be too much ice cream, Ryan said, laughing. No such thing as too much ice cream, Sophie declared. The beach house Richard rented was perfect. Large enough for everyone to have their own space, but cozy enough to feel like a home. It sat right on the beach with a deck overlooking the ocean. When they arrived, Sophie and Emma ran straight to the beach, squealing with delight. Ryan and Richard followed more slowly, carrying bags and supplies. This is beautiful, Ryan said, looking at the endless stretch of sand and water. I thought you'd like it. Richard set down the bags. Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting us. That first evening they ate dinner on the deck while watching the sunset. The girls talked non-stop about all their plans for the week. After dinner they toasted marshmallows over a small fire pit on the beach. This is perfect, Emma said, her face sticky with marshmallow. Completely perfect. The week passed in a blur of happy moments. They built elaborate sandcastles that the tide washed away. They collected shells and sea glass, filling buckets with treasures. Emma discovered that her new prosthetic worked well in sand, and she ran along the beach with Sophie, both girls laughing as waves chased their feet. One afternoon, while the girls napped after a morning of swimming, Richard and Ryan sat on the deck with iced tea. This has been good for Emma, Ryan said. She's so confident now. Sophie did that. You did that. Richard turned to look at her. A year ago, Emma was a lonely, scared little girl. Now she's happy and brave and full of life. Sophie was shy before Emma. Your daughter taught her about courage and resilience. They sat in comfortable silence, watching seabirds soar over the water. Ryan, Richard said slowly, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you ever get lonely? Doing everything alone, raising Sophie without a partner? Ryan considered the question. Sometimes. But I have Sophie and now I have you and Emma too. That helps. It does help, Richard agreed. I was so lonely after my wife died. I buried myself in work, pushed Emma away. I was surviving but not living. And now I'm living again. Because of you and Sophie. Because Emma found a friend who saw past her prosthetic leg and just wanted to play. Because you were kind when you didn't have to be. I was just being a decent person, Ryan said softly. No, you were being exceptional. You always are. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Understanding, affection, possibility. But before either could say more, Sophie ran onto the deck. Mama, Emma and I want to go find crabs in the tide pools. Can we? The moment passed but the connection remained. On their last full day at the beach, they took a boat tour to see dolphins. Emma and Sophie pressed against the railing, watching for fins in the water. When a pod of dolphins appeared, jumping and playing alongside the boat, both girls screamed with excitement. Best vacation ever, Emma declared. That evening they had a special dinner at a nice restaurant overlooking the ocean. Emma wore a purple dress, Sophie wore blue, and Ryan wore a soft pink dress that made her look radiant. You look beautiful, Richard said quietly when Ryan sat down. Thank you, she said blushing. Over dinner they talked about the week's adventures and made plans for future trips. The girls wanted to go to the mountains next, maybe see snow. We could rent a cabin, Richard suggested. Teach them to ski. Or just build snowmen, Ryan added. Not everything has to be fancy. The best things are usually simple, Richard agreed, his eyes on Ryan. After dinner they walked along the beach in the moonlight. Emma and Sophie ran ahead, collecting shells even in the darkness. Richard and Ryan followed, walking close together. Richard, Ryan said. Can I ask you something? Anything. What are we doing? These vacations and dinners and family time. What is this? Richard stopped walking. I don't know exactly. But I know I'm happier than I've been in years. I know Emma is thriving. I know I look forward to seeing you every day, not just because of the girls but because of you. I feel the same way, Ryan admitted. But I'm scared. We come from different worlds. You're wealthy and powerful. I'm just me. A single mom doing her best. You're not just anything. You're remarkable. Richard took her hand gently. I'm not asking for anything to change right now. But I want you to know that you matter to me. That this, whatever this is, matters. It matters to me too, Ryan whispered. They stood there on the beach, holding hands while their daughters played in the moonlight. It felt right, natural, like this was exactly where they were meant to be. The next morning they packed up to leave. The girls were sad the vacation was ending but excited about summer plans already forming. On the drive back home, Emma fell asleep with her head on Sophie's shoulder. Ryan turned in her seat to look at them. They're perfect together, she said. Like their mothers, Richard replied softly. Ryan smiled but didn't respond. Some things didn't need words yet. Back home, life returned to normal routines but everything felt different. Richard and Ryan saw each other at work, at the park, at weekend gatherings. They were careful around the girls, not wanting to confuse them, but the connection between them grew stronger. One evening in early May, almost exactly a year after Emma and Sophie first met, Richard invited Ryan to stay after the girls had gone to bed at their regular Sunday dinner. They sat on the patio with wine, talking about everything and nothing. A year ago, Emma was sitting alone on a park bench, Richard said. Now look at her. She's confident, happy, surrounded by love. Sophie was lonely too in her own way. She had me but she needed a friend her own age. Someone who understood her. They found each other at exactly the right time. Or maybe we found each other, Ryan said quietly. Richard set down his wine glass and took Ryan's hand. I don't want to rush anything. The girls are what's most important. But I need you to know that I care about you. That I want to see where this could go. I care about you too, Ryan said, her heart racing. I have for a while now. But I'm scared of messing up what we have. We won't mess it up. We'll be careful and honest and put the girls first always. Always, Ryan agreed. They didn't kiss that night, didn't make grand declarations. But they held hands and talked until midnight, making plans and sharing dreams and acknowledging what had been growing between them for months. The next Tuesday at the park, Emma noticed something different. Her father and Ryan stood closer together than usual, talked more quietly, smiled at each other in a new way. "Sophie," Emma whispered, "I think our parents like each other." "Like how?" "Like grown-up like. Romantic like." Sophie's eyes went wide. "Really? Look at them." They watched as Richard gently brushed a leaf from Ryan's hair, and she laughed at something he said. "What do you think?" Emma asked. "Would that be weird?" Sophie thought about it seriously. "It would mean you'd really be my sister. Forever sister, not just best friend sister." "Would you want that?" "More than anything," Sophie said honestly. "Me too," Emma admitted. That summer Richard and Ryan officially began dating, though they'd really been heading there for months. The girls were thrilled, already planning shared bedrooms in their imaginary future where they all lived together. "One step at a time," Ryan told them laughing. But everyone knew where this was heading. Love had been building slowly, carefully, rooted in friendship and shared values and genuine affection. On Emma's 9th birthday in July, both families celebrated together at the park where it all began. They had a picnic instead of a formal party, just the four of them and a simple cake. "Make a wish," Sophie said as Emma prepared to blow out the candles. Emma looked around at her father, at Ryan, at Sophie. At the family she'd found in the most unexpected way. "I don't need to wish for anything. I already have everything I want." She blew out the candles anyway and everyone clapped. Later, sitting on the bench where Emma had once sat alone and crying, Richard pulled out a small box. He handed it to Ryan, his hand shaking slightly. "It's not a ring," he said quickly, seeing her eyes widen. "Not yet. But it's a promise." Inside was a delicate necklace with a butterfly pendant. "For the woman who gave my daughter her wings back." Ryan's eyes filled with tears. "Richard, it's beautiful. We're taking things slow, doing this right for the girls. But I wanted you to know my intentions are serious. That I'm in this, completely." "I'm in this too," Ryan said, letting him fasten the necklace around her neck. "Completely." The girls watched from the swings, grinning at each other. "They're definitely getting married," Sophie whispered. "Good," Emma whispered back. "Then you really will be my sister." As summer faded into fall and then winter, the four of them continued building their chosen family. They had game nights and movie marathons. They volunteered together at the Bennett Foundation. They took another vacation, this time to the mountains where they built snowmen and had hot chocolate by the fireplace. And through it all, Emma continued to thrive. Her prosthetic leg was just part of who she was, neither limitation nor definition. She was simply Emma, a brave girl who'd survived loss and loneliness and found joy again through friendship and love. One evening in December, almost 2 years after that first meeting at the park, Richard gathered everyone in the living room. "I have something to say," he announced. Emma and Sophie sat on the couch, barely containing their excitement. They'd been expecting this for months. Richard got down on one knee in front of Ryan. "We've taken our time. We've been careful. We've put the girls first in everything. But I know what I want, what we all want. Ryan Torres, will you marry me? Will you let us be a real family, officially and forever?" Ryan's answer was yes before he even finished asking. The girls jumped off the couch, screaming with happiness. They group hugged, all four of them laughing and crying at once. "We're going to be real sisters," Sophie said to Emma. "We were always real sisters," Emma replied. "Now it's just official." They married the following spring in a simple ceremony at the park where Emma and Sophie had first met. Just family and close friends, nothing elaborate or showy. Emma wore her butterfly prosthetic, now decorated with tiny pink flowers Sophie had helped paint on. She stood beside her father as his best person, her role symbolic of how she'd brought them all together. Sophie was the flower girl, scattering petals with enthusiastic inaccuracy. Ryan wore a simple white dress and carried butterflies instead of flowers, a tribute to Emma's mother and the journey they'd all taken. When Richard and Ryan kissed, officially becoming a family, Emma and Sophie cheered the loudest. That evening at the reception held in the Bennett Mansion's garden, Emma stood on a chair to make a toast. Everyone fell silent, waiting to hear what she would say. "2 years ago, I was the loneliest girl in the world," Emma began, her voice clear and strong. "I sat on a bench at the park every Tuesday and Thursday watching other kids play, wishing someone would see me. Not my prosthetic leg, not my fancy clothes, not my big house. Just me." She looked at Sophie, who smiled encouragingly. "Then one day a little girl named Sophie asked me to play. She didn't care about my leg or my differences. She just wanted a friend. And her mama, Ryan, shared her snacks and her kindness and made me feel welcome. Emma turned to her father and new stepmother. You taught me that families aren't just people related by blood. They're people who choose each other, who show up for each other, who love each other through hard times and good times. Tears were flowing freely now, not just from Emma but from everyone listening. So here's to my dad and Ryan. To Sophie, my best friend's sister. To the family we chose and the love we found when we all needed it most. May we always remember that kindness and hope and love should lead everything we do. Everyone raised their glasses, toasting to love and family and second chances. Later that night, after the guests had left and Sophie had fallen asleep in what was now officially her room in the Bennett house, Emma stood in her own room, looking at her reflection in the mirror. Her prosthetic leg gleamed with butterfly decorations. Her purple dress made her feel pretty. But most importantly, her smile was genuine and reached all the way to her eyes. She was no longer the lonely girl on the bench. She was Emma Bennett, daughter and sister and friend. She was brave and kind and whole, not despite her prosthetic leg but including it as part of her story. Her mother would be proud, Emma thought. She'd survived loss and pain and loneliness, and she'd come out the other side surrounded by love. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Her father and Ryan stood in the doorway, still in their wedding clothes. We wanted to say goodnight, Richard said. And thank you, Ryan added. For being brave enough to be friends with Sophie. For bringing us all together. Emma ran to them, hugging them both tightly. Thank you for being my family. Always, they said together. Always. As Emma drifted off to sleep that night, she thought about how much had changed since that first Tuesday at the park. How one little girl's courage to say hello had transformed 4 lonely people into a family. She thought about butterflies, how her mother had loved them, how they represented transformation and beauty and hope. How Emma had become like a butterfly herself, emerging from the darkness of grief into the light of love and belonging. Outside her window, the moon shone bright over the park where it all began. That bench where she'd once sat alone, crying and broken, was empty now. But it would always be special, the place where loneliness ended and family began. Emma smiled and whispered to the night, to her mother's memory, to everyone who'd brought her to this moment of perfect happiness. Thank you for teaching me that the richest people aren't the ones with the most money. They're the ones with the biggest hearts. And with that truth warming her soul, Emma Bennett fell asleep in her forever home, surrounded by her forever family, knowing that kindness and hope and love had led her exactly where she belonged.